pandemic really happened in a moment of like so many different social justice issues blowing up, whether it's Black Lives Matter, the anti-trans bills, the election, like there's just so many things that were happening simultaneously to the pandemic that the need for community only multiplied.
Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, it does not just apply for Jewish people. It's a responsibility we all have to stand up for those whose voices cannot be heard, for those whose voices were taken from them.
I think most of us would believe generally there's a problem in law enforcement. To hear about somebody pleading for his life.
And the images with the knee on the neck, I think, is just kind of, that's the takeaway for me for this whole period. It's that was a tipping point.
Of course, that was not something that anybody could rationalize or justify or look away from.
I grew up in a Miami that was very much like the South, was very segregated.
My husband was once pulled over by a Georgia state trooper and forced to strip down to his underwear on the side of the road. So we've ourselves experienced some of these moments.
And when we see these sort of events happening, it's a reminder that really could be me. I could just be out for a run, and then suddenly I'm dead. And it felt so deeply personal, George Floyd. It felt so deeply personal.
Things and buildings, all of that can be broken down and can be recreated, and human lives cannot be taken for granted, cannot be taken without action.
First, you watch the protests, you watch what occurs, and there are moments where you're like, yeah, burn the whole thing down. That's what we deserve. Burn the whole thing down until something changes.
Well, we say as Jews, never again, and refer directly to the Holocaust. As Jews, we also refer to the general situation, and it's not going to be never again. And we need to keep protesting. We need to try to continue to try to raise people's understandings of human rights.
Because I think it's important that you don't just sort of show outrage or shock, but that you take action. And
oh my gosh, like now is the time. People are on the streets, people are listening.
And so as Jews, I think it's really important for us to be aware about the forces that are working against us in society. But rather than having that turn us inward, I think it's essential that we continue to have allies and partners in working for justice for Jews and for others who have been marginalized and are vulnerable in our world.
Really, really important, I think, that people from both sides of the aisle try to find vehicles to come together, to talk about the wrongs and talk about how can we make our community, our society better.
My hope is that, 20, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, when you're reading the history books about 2020, that it is a turning point.